Welcome to Football Discussion Daily. My name is Joe, and I'm here with the co-host
Gio.
CGO or George. We're releasing this on the 3rd of June, 2026. Please like us, subscribe us. We release every single day. Long form on YouTube, short form Instagram, TikTok, and other platforms. Today, we are discussing two things. First, there's World Cup Group E, which is Germany, Ecuador, Ivory Coast, and Curacao, which is an interesting group. I will actually be at one of the games for this group, so I'm really excited. I will be at the Curacao Ivory Coast game in about 3 weeks here in Philadelphia. My entire family's going. I'm super excited about that. But we will discuss all four teams, what their expectations are, and what the matchups will be, what players to look out for. And we are also discussing Anthony Ireola. Every single media outlet except for officially Liverpool sources are Liverpool as a club have basically said he is going to Liverpool after they sacked Arne Slot on Saturday. He has been the Bournemouth coach for 2.5 years, and he has done exceptional there. He lost several players, I think 5 over the last year, and still ended the season on I think it was 20 games unbeaten in the league. He lost Anton Semenyo in January. He's lost his entire back line, but still didn't skip a beat and had a very successful season. Qualified Bournemouth for Europe for the first time in their history. Obviously, Eddie Howe did an exceptional job getting them from, I think, League Two to Premier League over the last 15 years. 15 years ago to 5 years ago. And then I really qualified them for Europe. So exceptional work from him. It'll be interesting to see him at Liverpool. George, let's start with that. I've watched Bournemouth several times this season, maybe 5 or 6 times, whenever they're playing Brentford, of course, or some of the bigger teams. He seems to have exciting football. I think that he has the high energy that I feel like was missing in Liverpool. He clearly knows the game tactically. I think this is a great signing for Liverpool. I think that he'll bring excitement to this team. What do you think, George?
Honestly, Joe, it seems as if the Liverpool owners decided to delay the sack of Arne Slot, possibly to get Andoni Iraola. A lot of people were thinking maybe Xabi Alonso would have been their most favorite, but I think from what is transparent now, it seems Araola is the person they had their eyes on because of the way he approaches game is similar to the way Jurgen Klopp approached game when he was in charge of Liverpool. And that's the kind of manager they are looking for. Because if you look at the way Andoni Raola's Bournemouth plays, they play with high intensity, they play with energy. That's the way they play, which is very similar to the pattern of Jurgen Klopp when he was in charge of Liverpool. Their way of play is very enterprising, it's very entertaining. So I feel that is the person they really had their eyes on. And remember the last time we spoke about the possibility of getting Anthony Raola, we said similar thing. And I'm not surprised that Anthony Raola is the man they will be getting to take the M of affair. I think he will be a very good fit for Liverpool.
I think the biggest difference, I think Alonso this is twice in 3 years that they've not really pursued Alonso seriously. And the reason that Alonso said yes to Chelsea is that Alonso wants more power than Liverpool upper management are willing to give him. Alonso wants, I've read a lot that Alonso wants to actually, not just every manager is a voice in the terms of, what transfers they want. Alonso wants to be maybe, more of a voice, more of a decision maker, and in terms of transfer strategy. And Ireola is completely comfortable working with the tools he's given by upper management, and that's why he is Liverpool manager right now, and Xabi Alonso is not. That is the rumors flying around. I think it all makes sense given Chelsea's failures in the transfer. Perceived failures in Liverpool. The ownership, I feel like they haven't really felt that. So it's also very interesting. George, I think that one of the biggest problems about going from a Bournemouth to a Liverpool is the qualities that make a good Bournemouth manager. Like, you need ideas out of possession as a mid-table manager. You don't have to deal with all these crazy competitions. You also, there's, I think, once or twice in the last year and a half, twice, I believe, Bournemouth didn't win a game for I think 9 or 10 games twice in the last year and a half since January of last year. That is something that wouldn't really fly at Liverpool. That is kind of okay at Bournemouth as long as you get ninth place and qualify for Europe. Do you see and Ireola? We've had several high profile managers try and make this jump over the last 10 years. Moyes, Potter, Thomas Frank to proceed to bigger clubs. None of those three really worked out. I think Pochettino is probably the most successful of that bunch. Do you feel like um, Ireola can make that jump to bigger club, bigger expectations, completely transfer his own mentality?
The issue is that in a big club like Liverpool, you won't have that luxury of time it got at Bournemouth, where maybe the first 6, 7 games you have poor results before things get stabilized. That is not going to happen in a big club because one of the goal of Liverpool is to be very competitive, win the league, and if possible, compete very well in every competitions they're involved in. So he's not going to have all those luxury of time. That's the difference between when you are a coach of a mid-table club and a top club like Liverpool. So he has to put his ass together, make sure he gets everything right from the beginning. Because now you can pardon him in Bournemouth, a club where he lost maybe some very key players like Dean Hodgson, some of the key players, he lost them. So he can be pardoned. But in a Liverpool, Liverpool has the financial muscle, the financial capacity to replace any player that leaves. So it's two different clubs with different philosophies. So he's not going to have all the luxury of time. He has to get things running as soon as possible.
Yeah. No, we'll see. It'll be. I think it's gonna be great to see him go, and I think the Liverpool fans, at least, when I look back on the early Klopp years, like I'm thinking Liverpool 2017, 2018, where they got to the Champions League final. They didn't win a trophy that year. They got fourth in the Premier League, but they played exciting football. They scored a lot. They let in a lot. They signed Van Dijk January that year, December, end of December, January. That if Liverpool has a season like that, I think fans will be pretty cool with it. Like as long as they see energy, as long as they see effort, as long as they see when your club is I feel like what was really missing from Liverpool too. I also feel like the squad was flawed. I've said that, but they didn't feel like Slot was trying different things. That Gakpo underperformed every week and was still in the squad. Same with McAllister. Same with Kanate. I think that they want to see a manager change stuff up that's not working. I think the Gakpo situation, especially when you had Rio, I understand you need to manage a 17-year-old's minutes, but having Rio Ngoma on the bench and starting up Gakpo, who had a pretty poor season every game, was not a bad look, not a good look. Same with Konate, did not have a great season. He's off next season, but he started most games this season. He had a pretty poor season. McAllister did not start a lot of games, but every single game, but he had a poor season by his standards. Curtis Jones was better. Szoboszlai was better. Gravenberch didn't have a great season, was better than McAllister. He started a lot of games. So I think Liverpool fans really want to see change when things aren't working. And energy, which was really missing this season from Slot. So we'll see, George. George, let's move on to World Cup Group E. This is Germany, Ecuador, Ivory Coast, and Curacao. Let's start with Curacao. I will be at this game. I didn't recognize a single player in this team. I looked at several of them on their Wikipedia page. Most of them grew up and were trained in Netherlands.
Yes.
I did know the guy on Sunderland, actually, who's on Curacao. I think there's a guy on Sunderland. But most of these guys, trained in Netherlands and the bigger clubs in Netherlands, play in Europe. This is a team like for a country of 1 million. I'm really impressed with just the variety of clubs that these players are at. I think it'll be really cool to see just a fresh faces at the World Cup. This is their first World Cup. Do you feel like they're going to be an underdog in this group? I think most people would say Germany is probably the favorite, Curacao is the bottom, and then Ivory Coast and Ecuador probably 2 and 3 in some capacity. Do you feel like this Curacao team can make noise, George?
Honestly, credit must go to them making their first appearance at the World Cup. This is a tiny Caribbean island nation, and they officially made history as the smallest country by both population and land area to ever qualify for the World Cup. I think their population is almost about 150, 160,000, close to 160 or thereabout. That's what their population is. So they've made that history, and I think their land mass is about 171 square miles. So you can see how small the place is. And it seems it's an autonomous territory within the Kingdom of Netherlands. So that's why you notice most of their players that will be representing them at the World Cup, they have a kind of a connection with the Netherlands. So that is the case. So for this competition, definitely they are going to be the underdog. One thing that I don't know if you know about the man who is their coach. I think he once tutored the Dutch national team. His name is Dijk Advocaat.
Yeah,
He's a 70, yeah, that's a legendary 78 years old Dutch manager. Those who have been following football for quite a long
yeah, yeah,
time will know who he is.
yeah,
So he was able to qualify them for the World Cup,
yeah.
which is a very good one for
I
them.
think I think this is a great like example of like this is why a 48 team World Cup. There's drawbacks to a 48 weeks, but it also benefits where you get to see fresh faces. A country gets to experience what it's like to be in the World Cup and be a part of a community. I think it'll be really cool. George,
So
next team, huh?
I'm sure, I think there's one of their players you should know. They call him Tahit Chong.
Yes,
He
I
once
remember
played
him
for
on Manchester
Luton
United and
Town.
Brighton. Yes,
Yeah,
and
he played for
Luton.
Luton Town. Yeah, so he's one of the players that will be playing for this team.
So no, it's yes, it's a great opportunity for Curacao to make some noise. George, next country, Ivory Coast. In the past, they've had some big names. Less so this go around. They have been to several World Cups, never gotten out of the groups. I feel like they're favored to at least get third. Again, Curacao is a wild card because I don't really know or seen them. Ivory Coast, I've heard of some of these players, but there's not any big names. I think that they'll probably get third and get to the knockout rounds. What do you think?
Well, this their squad is not as elite like the golden generation of the Ivory Coast team that qualified for their first World Cup in 2006. That team had the likes of Didier Drogba, Yaya Toure, Kolo Toure in their squad. They had a lot of quality players then, but despite having those quality players, they still couldn't get out of the group stage. Unfortunately for them, then they were the group that was termed the group of death that had teams like the Argentina and then the Netherlands. But one thing they were able to achieve then was that they got their first victory at their first appearance of the World Cup, defeating Serbia at that World Cup.
Who they
Now, this
defeat?
yes, they defeated the Serbia. They defeated
Serbia.
Serbia, yeah, 3 goals to 2, and that was their first ever win at the World Cup, their first appearance. But after then, they've never, even from 2020, I mean 2006, when they got to their first World Cup, and then 2010, their second edition, and 2014, they've never passed through the group stage. So maybe this might be an opportunity now that we have about 48 teams competing, and then we are going to have 32 teams playing the round of 32. This might be an opportunity for them to, I mean, go past the stage of this competition. One player that will be looking out for from their team is the guy called Frank Kessie. I'm sure you know him. He once played for Barcelona before he moved to El Ali. And then they have a guy called Seko Fofana, who plays for FC Porto. And then Ibrahim Sangare, he plays for
He's
Nottingham Forest. I'm sure that's one player you
yeah.
should know. And then we know have Amad Diallo, who plays for Manchester United. Everybody knows that guy. And then Jan Diomand, who plays for RB Leipzig. I'm sure a
There's
lot of clubs
a
are
lot of
able.
rumors, a lot of rumors about him to PSG and Liverpool this summer.
Yes,
Again,
Liverpool is
I'm
yes,
really
Liverpool.
excited. I'm really excited to see him all in person in 3 weeks, George. Next team, Ecuador. They have some big names. In my opinion, if Arsenal had won the uh, Champions League on Saturday, the man of the match would have been Pierre Hincapié.
Yeah,
He has been on this team. Obviously the center back on the opposite side, William Pacho, and then you have Moises Caicedo, and then you have a couple players around, that around Europe and players who had decent careers in Europe. And so this Ecuador team have been to several World Cups. They made it out. They've played one knockout game in their history. I remember they lost to England in 2006,
yes.
1-0. And so they, in my opinion, George, I said there was one, clear 4 in this group, and then 2 and 3 is, I think a lot of people have different opinions. and you kind of agree. Who do you think is better between Ecuador and Ivory Coast on paper from a squad
Def-
perspective?
Definitely, Ecuador has a better record. And even if you look at the quality of players, you've made mention of the likes of Moise Caicedo. You've made mention of a player like William Pacho, Piero and Tapie. These are big players. And apart from that, they have their captain, which is called Ene Valencia, who is also an experienced player that's going to be in that team. So, and they have more World Cup experience. This is going to be their fifth appearance at the World Cup. And I think the best they've ever achieved at the World Cup is getting to the round of 16. So I think now they will be aiming and having better ambition, maybe to go maybe a bit further to maybe to the quarterfinals or so. They have the players that can get them there. So I think I will always put them ahead of Cote d'Ivoire. I'm thinking Cote d'Ivoire might finish third in that group. But in this group, I think it's going to be Germany and Ecuador fighting for the first place, while the other team comes second. That's what I feel will happen.
Yeah, yeah. I kind of agree. I think Ecuador's. I don't, but I don't think there's that much between these teams that anything would surprise me except Curacao. If Curacao gets any points, I'd be surprised. But between the top three teams, yes, I do feel like it's Germany's the best on paper, then Ecuador, then Ivory Coast. But I don't. I would not be surprised if again this Germany just to transition to Germany. They didn't make out of the groups the last two times. There's a lot of reasons behind that. They were one of the most successful teams. They were one of the most consistent teams until 2018. They had the most semifinals. They've never failed to get out of the groups until 2018. Now there's two tournaments in a row they failed. This squad, in my opinion, is again not as good as the one. Certainly not as good as the one that won the World Cup or the one that. But I don't think it's any stronger than 2018 or 2022. Still the strongest in this group because it's Germany and they've some of the best football infrastructure and training in the world. But I don't think that they're that much stronger than 2018 and 2022, George. What do you think?
The truth is that this current German squad, I don't think they have a very reliable striker like you've seen in the past. Those years where we saw Germany go to the World Cup, make great impact, be able to win, you notice they have very good strikers. In the 1990s, you hear of Jürgen Klinsmann. In 2014, when they won the World Cup in Brazil, you see the likes of Thomas. I'm trying to remember his name now. I think he now plays in the US. He was once a player
Thomas
in
Mueller?
the Thomas Muller. Yeah, thank you
He's
very
a
much for
second
reminding me.
striker.
Yeah,
He was a
yeah.
second striker, but yeah, I get your point. I
He's,
agree.
he's a striker,
He's
but
quality. He's
sometimes
quality.
yes, yes. He has that top is somebody of high quality. I don't think we have players of that quality when Thomas Muller was at his peak. I don't think this German team has that quality. Kai Havertz is trying as a center forward, but you can't compare his quality with when Thomas Muller was at his peak. So that's one thing they are lacking in this squad. They have good midfielders, the likes of Florian Wirtz, the likes of Jamal Musiala. These are good midfielders. Possibly, maybe they will be depending on maybe a striker like Dennis Budav, who once played for. Remember, he played for Brighton at some point before he went back to Stuttgart.
I do
And
remember
then
that.
the likes of Nick Votamad, these are just young strikers still coming up.
It's a very different ball game playing for in the Premier League. I feel like the World Cup is lower competition than the Premier League. Maybe some of the best teams would be competitive in the Premier League, but the biggest difference, George, is even if the talent's the same, Premier League practice together 9 months a year. They have 9 months to get their defensive drills, get their positioning, understand how to communicate with each other. These international teams have, 1 or 2 months a year to do that, and you can tell. And so there's certain stylistics of play. International game is a little more simpler. Like there's less complex, there's less pressing. International game also especially for tournament play, you're basically guaranteed a game every 3 days if you keep on winning. So it's like 7 games over 28 days or something like that to win the tournament. And so I feel like a guy with Woltemana's abilities might do better, like because he's big, he's physical, than Havertz, who is not a traditional striker. But again, I haven't seen these guys play at the international level for Germany. But I agree, on paper, these strikers are weak, and I think that might come back to bite them. Maybe not in the group stages, but certainly by the time they get to the elite teams in the round of 8, round of 4, if they get that far, I just can't see them overtaking France or Spain or any number, or Argentina, or any number of great teams.
Yeah.
George, let me
I'm
close
not.
out with our standard questions. George, it's been 20 minutes. Number one, do you feel like Germany's lack of strikers will come back to bite them? Number two, who do you think's better between Ecuador and Ivory Coast? And number three, will Curucao make any noise in this group? Any chance for them to make noise in their first World Cup? Let us know your thoughts, and thank you for listening.